Bedtime Stories. Rip Van Winkle. Adapted from the story by Washington Irving. Illustrated by Lund. As you journey up the long Hudson River, you will be struck by the beauty of the Catskill Mountains. Rising up to the west, these mountains look different with each change in weather or time of day. When the day is cloudless, the Catskill Mountains hold a misty blanket around themselves, glowing with the rays of the setting sun. There, magic can take place. A magical thing once happened to a man named Rip Van Winkle, a man well known in his village at the foot of the Catskill Mountains. Rip Van Winkle lived in a house he had built with his own two hands. He had a wife who took care of their many children. The children were rosy-cheeked and happy, and they all loved their father. Rip would gather his children around him and play games with them. Late at night around the fireplace, Rip would tell the children stories of mystery and magic. Rip Van Winkle was a good father and a good man who enjoyed his life. Rip's favorite thing to do was hike among the beautiful Catskill Mountains with his beloved dog Wolf. It was on such an evening hike that Rip's famous troubles would occur. That evening, as Rip and his dog climbed, a strange voice called Rip's name. "Rip Van Winkle!" the voice cried. "Rip Van Winkle!" It seemed to be getting closer. Rip looked around but saw only an old crow perched in a tree. Figuring that his imagination was playing tricks on him, Rip began to hike again. But again the voice called his name. "Rip Van Winkle!" Rip turned around and spotted a small figure walking toward him. As the stranger came closer, Rip was surprised. The stranger was a short and stout man with a long bushy beard. The man carried a barrel. He asked Rip for help, and Rip agreed. Rip and the man carried the barrel. They went higher into the mountains. Finally, the two came to a clearing. Here, Rip spotted a group of small men much like his new friend. These men were bowling on the grass. The little men all had long flowing beards and the same funny hats and clothes. The man opened the barrel, which was full of a dark liquid. Pouring the liquid into mugs, the man offered one to Rip. He found the drink to be so good that he drank mug after mug. The strange little man watched Rip drink. Soon Rip's head nodded, his eyes closed, and he was sound asleep. When Rip awoke, he found himself not in the clearing, but lying at the foot of the mountains where he met the strange man. "I must have slept here all night long. What will I tell my wife?" Rip thought. Rip called out to his dog so that they could head home. "Come here, boy!" But Wolf would not come. Rip headed into the village. There, people began to point at Rip. Wondering why they did this, Rip stroked his chin. There he felt a long beard. His clothes were in tatters. The other people were dressed in clothes that seemed strange to Rip. Even the buildings were different, with new paint and signs. Rip left the village. He walked until he got to where his warm, sturdy home stood. As he came to the house, he expected to hear his wife's voice scolding him for not coming home the night before. He expected to hear his children playing and his dog barking. But Rip Van Winkle did not hear his wife or children, and he did not see the house he had left behind the night before. Instead, the house had fallen apart with age. Then Rip heard a dog bark. This dog looked a lot like Rip's old dog, but it didn't come when he called it. Rip knew it couldn't be his faithful Wolf. Rip wandered back into the village. The people gathered around Rip, still pointing at him. They asked who he was, worried that he was crazy or even dangerous. A man with a hat hushed the crowd. "Leave this fellow alone," he said. He asked Rip who he was and why he was there. "I've lived here my whole life," Rip said. "Name the people here," the man said. "Nicholas Vedder, Brom Dutcher," Rip told the people of the crowd. "Nicholas Vedder has been gone for years," said the man, "and Brom Dutcher went off to war." Rip's heart sank. The changes in his home and friends made him sad. Rip saw a familiar woman. "What is your father's name?" he asked. "My father's name was Rip Van Winkle. He left us 20 years ago." "I am Rip Van Winkle," Rip said. The crowd looked closer at Rip. This man did look like Rip Van Winkle. He was telling the truth. The man whom they had not seen in 20 years had come home. That night, all the people of the town welcomed Rip home after 20 long years sleeping in the Catskill Mountains. The story of Rip Van Winkle became a legend. Hi, if you like this video, please give this a like and hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon to get notified whenever I release a new video.